Hey, everybody. I had a conversation with a couple people today about housing, food cost, all these other things. And I was basically just listening while they discussed their opinion of how the situation was going to develop and talking about Israel Palestine, the Ukraine conflict. And I disagreed with almost everything that they said, but I didn't say anything until the end. And I want to share my view with it because I wind up talking to a lot of people about this on Facebook and on YouTube. So I figured I'd just make a video and get it out of the way. And if you were born in 1974 or later, then before you were ever born, this was over. It was already written in stone. Everything that has come to pass and that is going to come to pass. And I'm going to start at the end and kind of work my way backwards. I'm going to start with the Ukraine conflict, which, call Putin what you want, it doesn't matter. It could have been Ross Perot or fucking whoever in power over there. It doesn't matter who's in power over there. There was only one decision to make about defending their autonomy and their borders, because what has happened is a strategic maneuver by the U.S. to save the dollar. People look at China as a threat to the American monetary system, always talking about China. Oh, they own us and this and that and all this other crap. And it doesn't make any sense. I'll tell you what does make sense is the fact that Chinese currency is basically an extension of the dollar. All the value that the Chinese have is because of the US dollar. And they need America. Even if you listen to Chinese economists, they understand, and they say it openly and plainly, without the US dollar, China couldn't exist, their economy couldn't exist, the country would falter and literally starve to death. We supply so much of their food, but we supply the value for their currency. Ukraine. Russia and Germany, these are the last vestiges of a rift that has been going on for 100+ years. So close to healing that this would pose potentially the defeat completely of the United States, because instead of having this rift and the economic disparities and competition that occur between these two, if Russia were to come into the fold, the euro is now supreme. The euro beats out the dollar and literally signs the death warrant for the dollar, signing the death warrant for the Chinese and for the Americans. The Americans, in their view, the elite class, they're educated. They understand the financial system. As much as people think that America is mismanaged, it's not mismanaged. It's managed almost perfectly. Our Central Intelligence Agency might as well be the Department of the Treasury. They work so closely hand in hand to stabilize and elevate the currency of the United States of America. There is no reason for the worth of the dollar other than it's the world reserve currency and it is the petrodollar. Everybody wants it because of these inflated demands. And that happens because we killed Gaddafi and fund endless wars to prop our dollar up. It's complex because people have been scheming on it for, at least since the mid 30s, maybe 20s. But what I want to point out is this is a race to valuelessness. Let's talk about some numbers. In 1973, we went off of the gold standard remnants completely. Gold standard is completely done with, and all of the legislation that had done anything, tying currency to anything that had real value, was gone. In the year 1980, right, the United States had less than $1 trillion of debt. It had $914 billion, I believe. Yeah. 44 years ago. Think about that. 44 years ago, there was not even $1 trillion worth of debt. In the preceding 10 years, right, we added 2.3 trillion. Then the next 10 years, it almost doubles. We're almost at 6. The next 10 years, 13.5. The next 10 years, 26.5. We don't even get any further. We go from 2020 to 2024, and we have added $8 trillion, right? Now, what you need to do immediately is pause this and look up a graph of the U.S. national debt over time, right? And what you will see is you will not see a linear pattern, right? You're going to see a logarithm. A logarithm, this is our debt being raised to some base power, right? It starts off slow like it did in the beginning. You know, we made it to 2000 with less than $6 trillion in debt, right? Made it from 1966 to the year 2000 with less than $6 trillion of debt. From 2000 to 2024, now we have $34 trillion. That's astronomical. We're adding $1 trillion now every 100 days. This isn't something that can go on indefinitely, right? Fiat currency held together by bullying, right? And splitting nations against one another. That shit sounds like a recipe for turning everyone in the world against you, which I kind of have to say, it seems like exactly what's happening. But let's forget about all of the consequences worldwide, and let's think about the consequences now, right? Economic disparity greater than it's ever been. More suffering, more pain, more drug use, more suicide, less marriage, less children, less happiness. There are all of these real world effects that have come about from surging national debt, devaluation, and endless wars to try and prop up the US dollar. And I promise you, if you go back and you look at everything that has happened with warfare in the United States, it's either about money through taxation or it's about money through preserving the valuation of the US dollar. That's the only reason we go to war. We go to war for money, and that's it. We don't go to war for nothing else. We don't go to war for fucking shit slamming into towers or not slamming into towers or fucking or whatever else. It's money, 100%. When you look at this logarithm, when I look at this logarithm, I see collapse. In my mind, I invert it, right, to 0, because that's where it's going. It's going to go to 0. One day you will wake up, you will go to the supermarket, and There will be an unnatural amount of people there, and you will notice none of the prices are correct. If you do get some food, you get something, you go to check out, you are going to be surprised by how much you pay if you are able to pay. That is the beginning. Those difficulties are the start. And once that happens, the time to no food, the time to literal cannot buy anything with money is weeks to months, max. We have countries right now around the world that are experiencing superinflation. People are starving to death. People are killing each other over food, right? 300% inflation, 3,500. It's insane. There is a class of individuals that constitute a great number of our society who contribute no tangible value to the world, meaning they interact with computers, they enter numbers, their jobs are otherwise about some type of data entry, something that does not physically affect the world. And I have not described this very well, but whatever percentage, I've heard as much as 40% of all jobs are like make work jobs, that these could be completely done away with and essentially nothing would change except efficiency. Let's say it's 20%, which if you have had any of the jobs that I've had, you know is low. 20%. So let's say essentially within the span of 2 weeks or a month, 1/5 of the population loses all of its ability to generate income and pay for anything if they could anyways, if the currency had any value. Pandemonium, chaos, murder, looting, rape, unprecedented. With the people of the United States, we have almost this perfect storm brewing of people who are so weak that they cannot bear the slightest discomfort. And the standard of living has been so high for so long and generated these weak people. And we also have very vicious and animalistic sections of our society. We're not a homogenous society. We're not racially homogenous, right? We're not religiously homogenous. There is no continuity in the United States. And this is, I want to say, one of the most important factors in what is coming and what is going to happen. Because you have a country like Japan, a racially and morally homogenous society that experiences an event like this, they're going to make it through. Besides the fact that they have, thousands of years of history behind their culture, their people, their genetics, and everything else, they're homogenous, right? They all look alike, they think alike, they share morals and values. They will sacrifice for one another and bring each other up. I'm not saying there won't be violence and selfishness and bad things happen. Of course there will. Difficult times bring out the worst in some people, but I'm saying it would be extremely mitigated. The United States is not the same way, right? It is not the same at all. And those fracture lines, those faults that run all through our society back and forth, the racial faults that we have, the moral faults that we have, all of the people that have been put in here that do not constitute what an American is, they are going to fall out. Their societies don't even work now, right? Easiest country in the world to live on right now, best standard of living. You're getting fucking robbed at the gas station, you're getting robbed, raped, whatever else. It's just like, it doesn't work now. They can't make it work now. If you think that they're going to make it work when the shit really hits the fan, you're a liberal, I guess. So, and a lot of the economists that I like to watch and read are Chinese, because the Chinese have an especially deep understanding of economics and of world interplay in economics. They don't view it as a segregated affair like a lot of other nations do. Maybe that's through schooling or whatever, I don't know. But the Chinese have essentially come up with a number, and they have said once the United States debt, and you got to remember that their money is directly tied to ours. It derives through the mouths of the Chinese themselves. All value of Chinese money is through the US dollar. They are telling us once the federal debt is 10 times yearly income, it will take 100 years to pay it back. And that, they are saying, is this point of collapse of the federal monetary system, where it will no longer work, function, exist. Ones turn to zeros. The magic number has been hit. And of course, there is no, it's not like it rolls over to that and it happens, but it's there. It's part of that parabolic curve to zero. So what is the solution? Well, obviously the solution is going to be individual. It's going to be each person, each man, each woman, each child, each family, whatever unit, from the smallest unit to the largest cohesive unit that can deal with something like this. It is going to be food, water, shelter, self-defense, community, right? And that is the thing that I think I lack the most, is community. I'm very interested in meeting people that are like-minded and that share a similar outlook on the world, which it's not like it's a great outlook to have, but I feel that it's realistic, and I think that, I believe, due to the numbers alone, that this is going to occur not only in my lifetime, but during the next 4 or 5 years, possibly sooner. It could be sooner, depending on what happens. We could have overnight Germany and Russia get together, end the war, and that's it, So make friends, talk to, if there's people in your family that you don't talk to, that you've had disagreements with, form bonds with that person. Again, don't let them be a stranger. Warn the people that you know. And I do believe that there are especially few people that are thinking about this, especially at like the blue collar level, or the I know that men are much more tuned into this than women are. Every time I've ever tried to talk to a woman about this, their eyes just kind of glaze over and they're like, I don't know. Apparently they've got better shit to worry about than the collapse of civilization. You'd think that the people with the most to lose would be looking at it the hardest, but because my life is not going to change a whole lot. I understand rudimentary basics of electricity generation, food production, fishing, hunting, misery. I am fucking accustomed to misery. I don't take insulin, So, stock up food, stock up bullets. Currency is worthless. If you're gonna need heavy equipment, buy heavy equipment. If you're gonna need a generator, buy a generator. Don't do it later. Do it now, because you won't be able to. No one's gonna sell you a fucking generator when there's no electricity being produced, right? When you can't plug into a wall anywhere and get anything, no one's gonna sell you a generator. You're going to have to take it from somebody, or you're just not going to have it. So that, or you have a community that allows you like communal charging, or whatever else it may be, share food with you, water. But these are things that I'm buying books, literal paper books. And I think that another thing that's incredibly important to consider is, if you're one of these people that has a job that does not produce a tangible result, if you don't produce food, if you don't produce alcohol, cigarettes, if you don't if you don't make something, you better have a skill. I'm a mechanic, right? I feel like that is going to be one of the most sought after things. And I don't mean a mechanic as in like can take a brand new part off and put a brand new part on. I'm talking about a mechanic who can take a broken part off, disassemble it, weld it, face it off, mill it, fix it, the broken part, and put it back on. Or take a part that maybe isn't meant for that, modify it, and then use that part, Because something as simple as a gasket, if you don't know what to do, you take the whole thing down. You got a car with a bad gasket, you can't buy any gaskets, it's not a fucking car anymore, it's a paperweight. So, develop a skill. Carpentry, plumbing, mechanic, whatever it may be, even if it's only a hobby for you, even if it's only something that you just dabble in, learn something to be valuable. I'll talk to you guys later.